First of all, thanks for joining this particular webinar. Myself, Amul Barnwal, I'm a founder and CEO of Prerequisites Consulting Private Limited. I'm having more than 16 years of experience in IT, in which 14 years of experience in Salesforce. I founded the CPQ Hours channel on October 2018. I have more than 2.8 plus subscriber, 2.8 thousand subscriber actually. I'm moving to my next slide deck where I'm going to discuss about today's agenda. If you see my agenda line item, can anyone confirm that? Are you able to see my like a PPT, a PowerPoint slide deck that I'm sharing?
Yes, Amol, we are able to see your screen.
Perfect. So in today's agenda, we are going to discuss about CPQ Health Dashboard, how this dashboard is going to help you in your day-to-day life of CPQ platform and environment. We'll discuss about some couple of like best practices, what we have to follow. And then I will launch a poll and quizzes where you can just answer, and then we'll discuss more about those Q&A item, including if you guys have any questions regarding the CPQ Health Dashboards program, just let me know, or you can just give a chat message. We'll discuss in detail. I'm moving to my next slide deck where I'm going to discuss about the CPQ Health Dashboard. The purpose of this dashboard is basically to analyze what all product rule or what all price rule or what all approval rule, including your configuration rule, how many numbers of approval rule or configuration rule and price rule are active and inactive. Why we are targeting to have this like analytics in front of us. As a CPQ admin or as a CPQ engineer, you must be knowing that if you create a multiple rules, it will be very cumbersome down the line to manage all this rule within the system. So in order to run your system smooth, you will have to visualize the CPQ Health Dashboard in your day-to-day CPQ engineering program. So what I did, I have just created this dashboard, is ready-made dashboard that I have created. I will share the install link for you. You can just install this particular package in your CPQ environment. If you are using your client environment or your customer environment, you can just install. It's a unmanaged package. You can also go and do some additions or updation to these dashboards actually. So if you see in my screen, I have like these active rules and product active and inactive product rules counts. Why I'm targeting this inactive and active product rules or price rule? If you are creating a bunch of like a product rule which is no longer required in your system, so your performance will be like a degraded. So in order to overcome with this situation, you have to keep monitoring these product rule and price rule and approval rule, including a configuration rule. If you think that these product rule or price rule or these rules are no longer required in the system, so you will have to archive these rules from the Salesforce environment, keep it somewhere in your repository, either in a Google Drive or in some other drive, and then probably you can just maintain this structure, whatever you have active product rules or price rules or approval rules and configuration rules. There are key things are very much important. If you are deactivating or activating, or if you are deleting those rules from the system, this is very much important. I will also discuss about the dependency. If you are deleting product rule, does it impact anything? If you are deleting it in what you call price rule, does it impact anything? Or if you are deleting approval rule, what is the best practices behind that? If you are deleting, is this a good practice to delete, or is this not a good practice to delete the approval rule? Okay. So before I move to my next slide deck, this is the dashboard install link that you can install in your production environment or in your sandboxes also. But the prerequisite for these dashboards, you must have your Salesforce CPQ package, including your Salesforce CPQ Advanced Approval Rule package. Until unless these two packages are not available in your Salesforce environment, you will not be able to install this package. Of course, you can design from scratch in your org. Okay. Now I'm moving to my Salesforce environment where I would like to showcase you how this dashboard will look like in my Salesforce environment. Just a second. As I have already installed the Salesforce CPQ, including advanced approval rule, approval packages, which is already been there in my Salesforce environment. I'm going to run my dashboard, which I have created so far. So this dashboard will look like to the present screen that I'm sharing you. Here you see how many product rule that I have, which is inactive or active in states. Okay. Our focus area should be on the item which are inactive in nature actually. So we'll have to focus on the inactive product rule, inactive price rule, including inactive approval rules, including your configuration rules also. So we'll have to target these rules whichever we have defined in a Salesforce CPQ environment. If you think that these rules are no longer required, you will have to just archive those data, archive those CPQ data model data, and then you can delete from the system. So in order to install this package, this is the link that I have shared to you. I will upload this PPT in my drive, and then I will share at the end of this particular webinar. Let me move to my next slide deck, where I'm going to discuss about some couple of best practices, when to delete, why to delete, and how to delete, why we need to delete actually. Okay. So let's suppose you have been creating, these are like best practices for your price rule or configuration rule or your product rule. Whenever you guys are creating any price rule, your price rule naming convention should be in a way where you can understand, okay, this is the price rule for this particular purpose or this particular meaning actually. Okay. So let's suppose your customer has different kind of like a business unit, and based on different business unit, you have created lots of record type on opportunity. And based on that opportunity, you are overriding some field, you are overriding some logic in order to complete that automations with help of your price rule or product rule. So whenever you are configuring this product rule or price rule or any other rule, you must be sure about your price rule naming convention. So price rule naming convention is another very much important for you to understand that price rule behavior down the line, because every system requires your more automations and more updates and more upgradations also. So that is why these rules naming convention are very much important down the line. Now coming to the part called, before creating a new price rule, we have to evaluate that price rule already exists in the system. If we need to alter a conditions, that price rule already been there, do not need to replicate or duplicate those price rule again and again. If you are creating a duplicate price rule, definitely you are compromising with your CPQ engines and their performance actually. So do not create a multiple price rule, and do not also create a multiple approval rule. If you are creating a duplicate approval rule, let me tell you one of the example that I was currently facing actually in one of my projects. I have created one approval rule in my system. After creating this approval rule, it was going to be like trigger an approver for an approver user or for the same group actually. I have created lots of duplicate approval rule for some conditions, and it was redirecting to a same approval user group or to the same user again and again. So whenever a Salesforce CPQ start triggering to those approval rule or start getting a null pointer exception error or some other exception also in the system, because I have created a same approval rule again and again, and it was redirecting to, like I have created one approval rule for one condition, it was redirecting to a one approver user group. I have created another approval rule with a different condition, but it was redirecting to a same user group actually. So in this scenario, some of the quotations is going to be fulfill the same criteria or fulfill the all the criteria in the approval rule that you have designed. So our best practices should not to create a multiple approval rule. If you think that there are already approval rule which are triggering to the same approver as a user, as a group, so in this scenario, you will have to alter the condition rather than creating a new approval rule in the system. And as we talked about in a naming convention, you will have to also be sure about your approval rule naming convention also. So these are two basic what you call rule practices that you will have to follow while creating this product rule or price rule or approval rule in a CPQ platform. Now coming to the part called in terms of like creating an approval rule and deleting and archiving this approval rule, what all impact that we have. If you create a product rule after a so long time, if you think that this particular product rule is no longer required, you have deactivated that product rule. Deactivating the rules, either price rule, approval rule, configuration rule, and product rule, does not impact anything in your system. But if you are deleting these rules, it may impact your CPQ services. Meaning that, let's suppose you have created one product rule. Down the line, your business is saying that we don't need this product rule in a nature. Now you can go ahead and just deactivate. You have deactivated. Now after so long time, you will see that you have deactivated lots of product rule which is already kept in your Salesforce environment. Now what is the CPQ engineer team will do? CPQ engineer team will visualize this dashboard on weekly basis or bi-weekly basis or monthly basis. Now they see that inactive product rule or inactive price rule or inactive configurations rules are increasing day by day. So now I have to take the actions to delete those rules from the Salesforce CPQ environment rather than managing these rules available on the production environment. So in order to archive or delete those rules from the system, what all important point that you have to take care. If you are deleting these product rule, you can, of course, you can go ahead and just delete those product rule, which is no longer required, which is inactive in nature. There is no such impact if you are deleting a product rule. Similarly, for behavior of price rule, there is no such impact if you are deleting a price rule also. There is no impact on deleting the price rule. But whatever the activity that you guys are performing for deleting those price rule or product rule or configuration rule, these two rules you can easily deactivate, easily you can delete from the system, which is no longer required in the system. But I would suggest you to do not delete these rules, whatever you have defined on a running environment in your production environment. Just do your deletion activity in your sandbox, execute all your QA activity, then move forward for your production down the line. But let me tell you how approval rule is different from these price rule or product rule or configuration rule. If you talk about the deletion of approval rule, I will never ever suggest you to delete this approval rule from the system, because approval rule has direct or indirect impact on your CPQ quotation logic, meaning that let's suppose you have your in-flight code. In-flight code meaning that you already have a code which is already approved within the system, and that code is already satisfied that approval rule, which are now no longer required, which is already in inactive stage. For the code where it is been already approved, you does not have any impact of deleting those approval rule. But let me tell you, if you have a code which is open in its stage, which is not yet completed, which is not converted to the order, then in this scenario, you should not have to delete these approval rule, which is no longer required. You will have to just keep it as a deactivated, because these approval rules are transactional data, which is available in the your CPQ data model. So I am suggesting you to do not blindly delete this approval rule from the system, which is no longer required. But before deleting, just do a checksum in your CPQ sandbox environment for those approval rule. Then moving forward, you can just go ahead and delete this approval rule if it does not have any impact on it. So there is a very crucial important while taking care of these activation, deactivation, including your archival or deletion of these rules in the system. So this is all about our today's webinar for the CPQ Health Dashboard. I will share this PPT, including this recording, in my YouTube channel and through email also. I will forward this PPT to you all. Now coming to the part called this is my YouTube channel link that you guys can just have a look. Now coming to the part where I'm going to launch one poll quiz. If you guys are ready, just confirm anyone so that I can launch my poll quiz in front of you. Can anyone confirm? Can I go ahead and just launch the poll quizzes in front of you all?
Yes.
Perfect. Just a second. Just let me know once you guys are able to see those questions at webinar. Questionnaire, actually, the poll that I have launched now. On your screen, you guys will be able to see the poll that I have launched. Whatever you feel comfortable, just get it answered. Then later on, we will discuss about the result of this particular poll. I can see one of the participant has already participated. I'm waiting for other participant to complete the poll. I can see 75% participant had participated in the poll. Please guys, do not hesitate to participate in this particular poll. It is very much important for you all to understand this CPQ platform and CPQ engine. I will give another minute. Once it is been completed, then we'll discuss about the result. There is no such like a marking. I'm not going to judge you all people. You are already like experienced people in the industry. It's just a learning session program. So do not hesitate to participate in the poll. I will give a 5-second more to end this particular poll. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to this particular end the poll. Now, I would like to share the result and then we'll discuss. Just let me know, are you guys able to see my screen? The poll result. Yeah. So the first questions was deleting a configuration rule impact a code creation or updation or not. I can see like 67% of the user or participant has put it a yes and 33% has put it a no. So as per my experience, which I see, if you delete a configuration rule, it does not have any impact on code creation or updations. So my question to this, my answer to this particular question is basically a no. Now coming to the second questions, deleting a price rule will impact a code creation or updation or not. Again, 67% user has said yes. But again, I'm saying, as per my experience, which I see, deleting a price rule does not have any impact on CPQ code creation or updation. So answer to this particular question is no. Now coming to the third questions, where deleting an approval rule will impact on a code updation or code creation, code resubmission also. Of course, yes. If you are deleting the approval rule, so answer is yes. If you are deleting approval rule, which is already deactivated from the system, definitely it has some impact because it has your transactional data, which is already kept in your CPQ data model actually. So it is not a good practice to delete those approval rules, which is already deactivated in the system. But if you would like to delete those approval rule, which is no longer required, you will have to go back to your Salesforce sandboxes, do the testing, and then you can take the necessary action in your production environment. I am just stopping this whole quizzes now. I'm moving to my slide deck, and thank you all for joining this particular webinar and training program. Again, I'm just requesting you all to just share your feedback. I will share the survey link to your email IDs. Just complete this survey. That survey will definitely help us a lot to improve myself in terms of like guiding you on a Salesforce CPQ environment. These are all my personal email IDs and my mobile number. If you guys have any questions regarding the CPQ, just reach out to us. If you guys have any questions or query, you can, I am open to discuss. You guys have any questions? Yuvraj, Muzammil, Kishore, or Kirti? Do you guys have any questions you can ask, or else we can just close this particular webinar for today's.
No questions, sir.
Thanks, Muzammil. Kirti?
No questions.
Thank you. Kishore and Yuvraj, do you guys have any questions so far? Perfect. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining this particular webinar. Hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you.